Hello everyone, we're back again with the Predator 3500 inverter generator. I was reading your comments on the last video I made about this thing, about how I was having problems with it stuttering, and even though it didn't cooperate and stutter at that point, and I made some adjustments hoping that maybe that would help, according to a couple of you, if I do some finger acrobatics and maybe use a needle nose pliers, I can actually pull that low speed jet out of there without taking all that bracing apart and gain access to the jet. So let's see if I can do that today. First of all, let's see how this thing's running, because it's stone cold. It hasn't been ran in a week, and frankly, if it behaves itself, maybe I won't even take the time to take it apart, but that wouldn't be a very fun video now, would it? So we're going to set the choke here. We're going to make sure the eco throttle is turned off, and this thing's stable. It's not going anywhere on these sawhorses. So let's see what happens. Of course, it idles perfectly. We'll give it a minute to warm up here. We'll kick it down into the eco throttle and see if that helps. Well, we'll see how it behaves in the eco throttle, I guess is the way to put it. Purring like a kitten. So I guess instead of taking it apart, what I'll do is I'll show you what was suggested to me. At least that way, if any of you run into this, you've got an idea of how to do it. I've got all kinds of tools with me. I was planning on actually pulling this jet, but I'm thinking whatever my problem was worked its way through, and in my mind, I'm not going to deal with the cold weather and everything today to take it apart. So let's get this shut down, opened up, and I'll start showing you at least what I was told would help. Why is it whenever you try to make a video, the talent doesn't cooperate? As you may recall, there's two screws that we pull, and the nice thing is they are clipped into this plastic cover so they don't actually come apart, which is really nice because you don't have to worry about losing them. So, if my assistant camera person would get nice and close in here, I'm going to grab a flashlight out of the truck so we can actually see what we're looking at. So down in here where my finger is that idle speed screw that we were talking about before. You can kind of see the head. And down underneath it, I could just get my finger on it, is the jet that we would need. So in order to service this without actually pulling this bracing apart, we would back this screw all the way out, and then supposedly you can pry on it somehow with a screwdriver, probably right through here, to lift it up and pull it out. Now, mine is cooperating, so I don't see the point in doing that. But what I will point out is, as long as we've got this thing open, spark plug is under here. I do have a different spark plug in there. Initially, these things came with Torch brand spark plugs, which, according to my research, is garbage. This one came with a Bosch. I can't complain about that. I did put a different plug in it. It's got a Champion in it right now. Air filters in here. It's a bit of a pain to get to, but there's a clip down here on the bottom that you pop open, and then you can push down on here and open it up to get to the air filter. This thing does have a fully electronic throttle, which that's how it controls the speed with demand. Right here, this is the drain for your float pole. This is what I should be remembering to do. When I'm not going to run this thing for a while, I should pop this panel off, and down here is a little hose that, actually it's this one, that I could put a cup under and drain that float pole. If you're going to store these things with fuel in them, you really should float bolts. Spark arrestor, real easy to get to. Again, we're going to take our handy screwdriver, and there's a few more screws this time. And these are not actually clipped in, which is unfortunate. If you're wondering what kind of oil I'm running in this thing, I'll admit I'm being cheap. I'm running a Walmart brand Supertech synthetic in it, 10W30. That just comes right off. Pull these two bolts, you clean this out, and then there's another screen under there. Let's see if I can get this apart without too much effort. Oh, figures. What size is it? This one? Hey, how about that? And I just cleaned this spark arrestor, so, and yes, this is warm, but thankfully it wasn't running too long. And maybe that's part of the reason it was running weird, is because I cleaned the spark arrestor or something. So then this little cover comes off, and you've got just this really coarse filter here that catches sparks. The big part that gets plugged up though is right here. And you can see how mine is nice and clean now. But when I cleaned it, this thing was pretty carboned up. So, big thing to remember with these things, a lot of people say, oh, just pull it out and it'll run fine. And they're right. I mean, we could fire it up. It would run beautifully right now. But without this, technically, you're not supposed to use it on federal lands. It's not, because the federal government requires you to actually have an approved spark arrestor in your generator. And really, who wants to be the one to burn down the forest? Not me. I'll keep the spark arrestor. And then that just goes back together. I do have a maintenance log that I'll show you guys that I use to keep track of stuff, and maybe I can even make a copy of the spreadsheet available through Google Drive or something, because it is a nice little spreadsheet that I'm using. And once again, the fingers aren't working, but what do you expect out of a windy day like today? I can only imagine how much wind noise there is in this video. Hopefully between the two cameras, we can get clean enough audio to make things sound decent. Again, overall, still very happy with this generator. Stephanie, would you agree?
Yeah.
What would your response be to those who say we should have bought a Honda or Yamaha?
Why? Give me some really good reasons why.
Okay.
We've used both of them. I know Travis has alluded to it in other videos that when we were hosting this last summer, the Forest Service gave us a very nice Honda. And it was a very, very nice generator, but this one's, in my mind, just as good and
a third of the price.
And a third of the price, exactly. So, to me, it doesn't matter which they're both very good generators. If you're looking for a good, cheaper option, trying to figure out, okay, how well will something like this fit your needs and maybe upgrade to a Honda, this is a good start, I think.
What about the Yamahas? I know you haven't seen too many of those. Those are the blue ones.
Right.
We saw a couple of those out at Black Lake.
They were quiet. They were, from my mind, from a distance, they were a little bit quieter than this Predator and the Hondas, but they were all very similar as far as noise output goes, I guess you could say.
Okay. So in the future, when we finally wear this thing out, which is hopefully in 10 years or 20 years, what are your thoughts on a replacement? Do we get it to, I mean, frankly, I'm asking you to speculate 20 years, 10, 15, 20 years in the future, but would you consider getting a Honda or Yamaha then?
I would consider one, but I also want to turn this one down.
Okay.
I'd consider getting another one of these, so
Well guys, I know we didn't take anything apart, I just kind of showed you a couple ins and outs, and that was not my plan for this video, but I just can't justify pulling the jet when it's actually doing what it's supposed to do. So I'm going to chalk up the way it ran when I exercised it last time as a fluke, and you heard it yourself, it fired right up when it was told, it idled beautifully. We could start it back up and put a load on it real quick, but oh, why not? Let's do that. I'll go get a load. I'll be right back. Okay,
Yep.
So we're back. Space heater. This thing under full power is 1500 watts, so it's half the capacity. This is my standard everyday, what I use to exercise the generator. So just to show you that it does run properly and it doesn't stumble or anything under load, just because I haven't done that, let's fire this up and hopefully I don't have to choke it again. As you can see, we're drawing 1500 watts. The thing didn't even change tone. That is probably my favorite part about this generator. She just runs. She doesn't make a whole lot of noise. She's fairly fuel efficient, and I've never had any complaints. So I guess to all you naysayers out there, if it does the job and it costs less, at the end of the day, is it really worth spending more money? So again, we love this generator. It's behaving itself right now. If it misbehaves again, well then we'll definitely tear into it and take it apart. But I'm going to chalk it up to a fluke because when I filled it last, I overfilled it a little bit, so I wouldn't be surprised if it was stuttering just because of fuel in a passage that wasn't supposed to be there, thanks to that charcoal canister, and maybe it burned it out, and that's why it's running right now. So, not what I intended for this video, but oh well. So, I'll throw up a subscribe if you haven't already. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you've got other things you want to see me do to the Predator, drop it down in the comments below. Otherwise, make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you in the next at our next destination, or maybe the next time I work on the Predator, which will probably be yet this fall with an oil change. Until then, we'll see you later.